All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So obviously there was some massive news with the New York Jets, right? They traded away wide receiver Elijah Moore. They signed Mecole Hardman, 1 year, $6.5 million. It's interesting, right? Because the Jets wide receiving room is there's just tons of names, right? With Corey Davison and Alan Lazard, who just signed a 4 year contract, Denzel Mims, tons of different names. But Hardman's interesting, right? Because you look at him, what he did in college, what obviously he's coming over from the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. But I wanted to bring on my buddy Alex from the Wild Wild West podcast. Alex, what's up, man?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Just chilling here in Missouri. So ready to talk about this new addition. I'm kind of sad to see leave KC.
You are okay. So yeah, that was kind of like my first question is like, what can Jets fans really, expect from a guy at Hardman? Because this is a guy who has a lot of potential. Everybody knows about the speed, his ability to hurt defenses down the field. But, just as a player outside of the speed, what can we really expect here?
Yeah. So I mean, I know the kind of the knock, at least it seems that's been this off season while this kind of wild free agency period's been going. Wild in terms of I feel like it's been pretty slow. I feel like the knock on him's been that he hasn't been healthy, but that's really not the case. Unfortunately, that was kind of the narrative for him this year. But I mean, outside of that, you're getting a pretty well-rounded receiver who I think's been in a potent offense since he's gotten in the league and has only developed every year since then. And I say it's unfortunate that he got injured, not only just because you didn't have him, but I think as this first part of this year was going on, he was really picking up steam and getting more involved. And I think his market would have been a lot crazier if he played all 17 games. But either way, Mecole Hardman is, like you said, blazing fast dude, 4.3 40. He's not the craziest in size, but he knows how to get open. He runs every route exceptional. I think he just kind of he was more of the victim, early on. He was drafted, in my opinion, KC drafted him second round early because they had kind of a looming off-field issue with Tyreek. And, at the time, weren't entirely sure that Tyreek was going to be able to play that year or, our part of the year or whatever. So I think that they took him as kind of a flyer and potential replacement if they have to go on that season without Tyreek. So I think, unfortunately for him, he kind of fell victim to there being too many mouths to feed in the offense. For the first 3 years, you had Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, eating targets. Not a lot of room for someone who's trying to develop to get what they would need to really put some productive stats down on paper. But he could do it all, and so I'm excited to see him in a change of scenery, hopefully with Aaron Rodgers, and and see what he can do. But he's a well-rounded speed, just receiving weapon that can really break open a secondary and kind of get over the top. And I think would be a nice complementary piece to Garrett Wilson, who's already that in his own right. But it gives you two of those options for defensive staff to account for, and I think only opens up things for the Jets, even more.
Dude, I gotta say it's kind of a relief to hear you say that, because you're a guy that, diehard Chief fan. You've been covering the team for a while. You know what Hardman brings to the game, right? What he brings to an offense. And I've heard, a couple of people say, hey, you know what, maybe 6.5 mils, maybe it's a little much for a guy that, like you said, has battled injuries, hasn't really been the most consistent guy out there. Again, looking at the Jets wide receiver room, it's not like the team's desperate. It's not, one of the biggest team needs out there. So 6.5 million when the Jets already have, they have a lot of money delegated to other positions, but it's awesome to hear you bring like a ton of positive points because I'm really excited to see what he could do.
Dude, yeah, me too, man. That's why I was, bummed, but happy for him because I think that's kind of what he needs is just a change of scenery, and someone to maybe a lot more targets to him. Even once Tyreek left, it was kind of they signed, 4 other guys that were like, well, we're going to figure out how we're going to replace Tyreek's production. But we know we still have Kelsey who's going to get, 10 to 15 targets. So I think it's unique, obviously as an outsider looking in, but, Jets are a young team on the ascension and don't necessarily know where all their target share is going to be carved out. So, I think he has a much better opportunity to turn into what KC was hoping he would be. And I mean, he is that player. I mean, watching, anything that he puts out, running routes on the field, but also what he tweets out when he's cooking dudes in practice. I mean, he knows what he's doing. So I'm excited to see what he can do in New York. Just kind of bummed he's not in the red anymore.
For sure, man. For sure. I appreciate it. Last question I have for you, and then I'll let you go. I know it's super late. Why don't you think the Chiefs brought him back? Because they obviously, they traded Tyreek Hill. Juju Smith signed a 3-year contract with the Patriots. Now Hardman's with the Jets. What's going on with the Chiefs, wide receiving room? What's the plan there? Why did they let a young guy in Hardman just walk?
Yeah. And, this has been my opinion ever since they made the move for Tony, at the deadline. I thought that was kind of the writing on the wall moment, if you will. That was sort of the indication that the franchise was preparing to move forward without Hardman. Cause I mean, they're essentially two of the same players. I mean, they bring the same stuff to the table. And I think that by trading for Tony, who kind of carries a little more being a 1st-round pick, it has that, 5th-year team option. They're like, okay, well, we're paying slightly more for this guy. And I don't want to like repay Mecole to have 2 of the same player when we already have, Sky Moore who needs to kind of develop and get more. There's rumblings of DeAndre Hopkins or an Odell Beckham. if that comes to fruition or not, I think they were trying to find just different kind of receiving options rather than just a bunch of speed guys. And you kind of saw that when they moved away from Tyreek and then replaced them with 3 guys to kind of spread the ball out. And I think that was just the big indication is once they moved for Tony, it was like, okay, like they're prepared to not sign him. Like I said, I think that also came with the mindset that he was going to come back. And unfortunately, when he did come back, he got hurt again because I think it was the last game of the regular season. But like I said, if he played that full year, I fully expect that he would have had a just robust market this offseason and someone, I mean, he would have gotten like that Jacoby Myers money or something like that. Cause, before he got hurt, and I said this time and time again on the Wild West pod, although, they're all haters. They didn't want to really talk about Chiefs being good, but you could tell that, they went into this offseason with the mindset that Mecole was going to take over some of that role that Tyreek had. And there was plenty of times that Mahomes, their timing was just barely off, where it was like Mecole's down sideline wheel route that would have normally been Tyreek, and it's wide open, and they just couldn't hit him. Just because of kind of the changing of the timing going from a Tyreek. I mean, same guy speed wise, but just changing receivers, the timing was a little off. But you could tell that was progressing every week. And then, I mean, the second to last game, I think he had 3 touchdowns, and then got hurt against Tennessee. I mean, granted, 2 of those were jet sweeps, but I mean, it goes to show how versatile of a player he is. I mean, they used him. He was kind of like KC's Deebo Samuel to some degree. Gave him 2 to 3 rushing attempts a game that he got a first down with almost every time. So, he's a viable and a lethal weapon in an offense. I think it was just more of they made the move for Tony because they needed someone like that in the roster, healthy at the time. Albeit, Tony's in his own right not a healthy player, but I think that was just kind of the writing on the wall of like they're prepared to move on and probably anticipated him to have a little bit bigger market than he did right now, than he ended up signing for. But I think that was just kind of the indication. It's like, we don't need kind of change the diversity of their receiving core, so to speak.
For sure, man, for sure. Well, dude, awesome insight. Like that's really, really, really cool in-depth stuff. And again, I know you literally just hopped off what a 2-hour podcast episode. So I appreciate you taking the time, man. I know it's late.
Always grinding, bro. No, hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. I like to spread the Chiefs gospel wherever I can, whether it be talking about my team or former players going to other squads that are at least looking promising right now. So glad to share my knowledge.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks again. And all of Alex's links will be listed down below in the description box. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.